everyone, and welcome to your favorite YouTube series. I mean, it's our favorite YouTube series as well, Not Another Demo. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Matt, when I think of Not Another Demo, I think of words like awe-inspiring, grand, excellent, impressive, lofty, exalted. And I say, well, that's very sublime of you to say. And so with that, we are really excited. Of course, I have with me Anthony Coggins, the Hammer, as we call him. And I have Josh, who is the founder and CEO of Sublime Security, with us today. And we're going to be talking about email security, which, of course, one of the hottest topics out there, because you know your organization is only one bad click away from being financially wiped out. So with that, Josh, please introduce yourself to the audience. And then the first question we always like to start with is, at a time where, hey, we all have too many meetings on our calendar, why should I carve out some time to talk with Sublime?
Absolutely. What's up, y'all? It's great to be here. So, quick background on myself. So I'm Josh, and spent about 10 years doing offensive related things for the DoD before starting Sublime, and spent some time in the private sector, getting very familiar with kind of email attacker techniques, gaining initial access in various ways. So that's what got me very familiar with the email space, the email security solution side of the space, and eventually ended up starting Sublime from that. Why you should listen to this podcast today. If you are frustrated with your email security tool today, if you're spending a lot of time on email related things, whether it's incidents, missed attacks, user reports, false positives, or in general, if you're worried about kind of your email attack exposure, that's why you would listen today and talk to us.
Yeah, so I love it when we get to have a founder of a company on, and I certainly appreciate you taking the time out of what I'm sure is a even busier schedule than we have. But I always like to also ask, like, when you were thinking of putting the company together, like, what did you see was missing in the industry, or what did you see that you could do differently or better than the other solutions that were out there?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I saw was time and time again when I would gain initial access via email or achieve some various objective via email and talk to the teams, like the defensive teams in the SOC, or the detection engineers or threat hunters. Their biggest frustration was the lack of control to do anything about it. I would gain access in a certain way, and they couldn't do anything about it. So this big realization that the entire email security industry had been approaching solving the problem in the same way since email had been a thing, which was via a black box. Like we're gonna train this, really fancy AI model. We're gonna plug it in and it's gonna solve all your problems, which sounds really great when it works. But when it doesn't work is where it creates all the problems and frustration for teams. And that's really where we saw the gap and the need for a tool that was not a black box, that was more flexible and transparent and gave and could address these pain points.
Can you talk a little bit about, because I think everyone understands that, email is certainly, I think is still the number one area of risk that folks have, but can you talk maybe a little bit more about like how big of an issue email security is, or actually like how at risk a company is if, like I said, somebody clicks on the wrong link?
Yeah, I mean, every company's going to be different in terms of how at risk you might be. So, depending on kind of your defense in depth, different security strategies you've got, the answer is hopefully like you're okay, unless, the attacker is kind of bypassing other things, bypassing endpoints, security, and so hopefully you've got a layered defense, but ultimately the impact can be extremely big. In fact, I think the latest Verizon DBR report still has email as the leading cause of losses. I think, don't 100% quote me on that, but it
I think
has
that's
at
right.
least been yeah. So and that's via there's a few different attacker objectives there that's actually causing these incidents. There's BEC, which is kind of your payload list, no attachment, no link, wire fraud and invoice fraud type attacks, which have been notoriously more difficult to detect. And then there's obviously your more identity-based stuff like credential phishing and then malware delivery. There's also been callback phishing recently. So there's a bunch of different types of things attackers try to achieve, and it's still the leading number one cause of incidents and just damage. So it's still a very, very big problem.
So So if you mentioned that, Sublime's different because it's not that black box, can you describe kind of what that structure then looks like? Is this a blank slate when we get it? We have to build all the rules. Do you have, canned rules? What does it look like to edit them or add your own? Kind of what does that experience with Sublime look like?
Yeah, you can kind of think of it like any other email security tool that you plug in and it just like it works out of the box. The main difference with Sublime is that we make all of our detections and models on the back end completely transparent to you as like the user of Sublime. And so the way that that manifests is we've created a DSL, a domain specific language for describing for basically being our window into like our detection engine. So that is what calls our, machine learning models like our natural language engine, our computer vision model to, sender profile and behavioral characteristics like past behavior. All of these things are getting called from our DSL. And so if you wanted to, you can peel back the layers and actually see what Sublime is doing under the hood to detect a BEC attack or to detect, like a malware delivery of, Picabot or something. You can literally see exactly what we're doing, how we're doing the file explosion, how we're calling the model, different things like that. So that's how it works under the hood.
On each of the detections, you can like see the rule name or whatnot, and then actually look at the syntax and why it takes
Exactly.
that amount.
Yeah, one of my favorite things when you want to peel back the layers is when you're investigating in a campaign that we caught, you can actually see down to if you want, you can, we've got like human readable summaries where we'll give you like a digest of, what we think is suspicious. But if you wanted to actually peel back the layers, you can view the actual source of the detection and it'll give you like green underlining to show you down to the line of code and the character offset that is literally matching that campaign. So one of the big frustrations that we've heard a lot just that we've been trying to that we solve is around you know knowing why something was or wasn't blocked. And that ends up causing like a lot of, investigation time, filing tickets to the vendor. And so one of the things we were just very, like very sure to address with Sublime was giving you that full transparency. So you never have to wonder that, ask yourself that question or spend time answering that question again.
And what's kind of so if I had a campaign come through that I was like, this didn't hit any rules, but I need to block this going forward. What does that experience look like to write a new detection or a new rule? Do I have to learn some, new language or is it, just like plug and play? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so in the event of a false negative, so every tool is going to have false negatives and false positives. So in Sublime, when you've got a false negative, there's a few things you can do. You can report it to us, like just like you would with any other vendor, right? So that's like at number one, you can send it to us. We'll investigate, update our models, push out new detections. But, the really cool thing about Sublime is you've got control over your own destiny. So you don't have to wait for us to push out a new model, in which case you can build a new detection. We show you can leverage, existing prior art. So we make all of our core detections available to you so you can leverage what we've got there. We also show you, even if it didn't raise above the threshold of getting, flagged, we still show you everything that's like suspicious about the message that we think is suspicious. So you can basically just use that as a starting point to start building, a detection for it. And then one of the really cool things about the rule creation experience is we've got this editor that is actually VS Code under the hood. So there's like autocomplete and syntax highlighting, and it basically just like walks you through, and ensures that you're doing it correctly and helps you along. And you can test your rule iteratively. And my favorite part about it is you can actually run the rule over historical data, what we call back testing. And so we'll take the rule, we'll transpile it to SQL, and we'll run it over however many millions of messages you want. And we do it really, really fast. And then we'll give you a result. And because we're API based, you can actually also, if you end up finding attacks there, you can remediate post delivery right there too. And so by the end of that kind of experience, you've got a very high confidence, high efficacy rule. It's not going to false positive. You can create it, and then you can set an action on it as well. And the actions can be alerting actions like, hit a webhook for kick off a SOAR workflow, or a Slack alert or an email alert, or it could be a remediative action. So, auto quarantine, move it to spam, insert a warning banner, move it to trash. You've got the flexibility
That
to.
that is interesting because I don't know of any other solution in this space that has that specific type of flexibility. Because
Oh, they don't.
you have use cases where the the CEO or the chief legal officer or somebody says, I want to know whenever this person gets emailed from this competitor, right? And I could
Yep.
build a rule then, right, that says send me a Slack message anytime we get a message from this domain, right? Or
Yep.
whatever like that. That's interesting. I've never honestly considered that use case.
Exactly. It's really about flexibility and just giving you the tools to customize the tool to fit your needs. Everyone's got like different things that they want to do. And just like giving you the control and flexibility to do it if and when you want to do it.
So would that sort of use case be more along the lines of like trying to find some sort of insider threat, or people are leaving the company, or what are some use case? I mean, I'm seeing those two, but what are the use cases for that?
Yeah, so we see a lot of interesting stuff come out from the customization. So beyond like our bread and butter inbound email protection, there's a bunch of other use cases like, yeah, DLP insider threat type stuff. And as an example, there's like the canonical, hey, we're gonna send an encrypted file to a throwaway disposable email address that the organization has never contacted before. Like that, you could describe in Sublime in like 3 lines. Or you could look for one of our customers built a rule that's basically like truffle hog for email, which is like looking for secret sharing within the organization. So with Sublime, you can look at inbound, you can look at outbound, and you can look at internal, east west. You can see everything going on. And so what they built was a detection looking for any secrets being shared between, internally, that are basically like non-compliant with their policies, because you shouldn't be sharing that over email, and especially in plain text. So we were picking up like all kinds of stuff that were getting shared there. So there's many other use cases, like, you know, forwarding to your personal email address, right? Like personal email address forwarding and things like that that we also do. So beyond, you know, the kind of customization, the other use cases we also do really well is like user report automation. So we can plug into the your abuse mailbox or Google or Microsoft, like the native buttons, and we can automate like phishing response, and we can do that super well too. So if you're like manually investigating those, the interesting thing about the abuse mailbox is like most of that ends up being benign messages, like just marketing and gray mail, and that's just like sucking sock time, right? So we can automate like 96 to 97, 98% of that with
Yeah.
you know,
So yeah, so dive into that a little bit. So
yeah.
because I was going to ask about that, because that does take up, as you mentioned, a significant amount of stock time. And if, in theory, Sublime already looked at this message, how does
Hmm.
it change the behavior of it?
Yeah.
And what does that end user experience look like for whoever reported it?
Yeah, so because we've got like the entirety of the detection engine available to us, we can take a second look at user reports and look for things. We don't have to be as forgiving as we do when we're looking at all mail. So for example, if we're looking for like a malicious message, maybe our threshold will be lower for a user report, or maybe some of the signals that we're looking for would be slightly um, less granular because it's being reported by a user, so it's already a little bit suspicious. At the time of report, there may be new coverage also. So we may have pushed out a new model. We may have pushed out some new detections. So very often, we might actually classify it as malicious. The more common case is that we tell you it's benign and we just automate that away from you so that you don't have to investigate benign messages. So that's where like a lot of the time savings comes in. Yeah.
Matt, your lips are moving, but you're not
Oh
talking.
man, I had the extra mute button on. So with all the
Double
customization
mute.
that you guys are able to do, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of customers struggling with right now is, you know, buying platforms and then getting them up and running, doing the customization, having the time to like tweak and tune and all of that stuff. So can you talk a little bit about what working with Sublime is like post sales? Like, do you have either folks that can help? Is there a regular cadence? Talk a little bit about the post sales process.
Yeah, so I think one of the main reasons why Sublime, I think, has arrived at this like really user first approach is because of the close relationships we have with our customers. And because how frequently we meet with them and listen to their feedback. So we have recurring meetings with most of our customers. It's up to our customers really how frequent, but we offer like from, you know, multiple times a month to monthly to quarterly, basically however frequent folks want to meet. Um, for us, we want to meet, you know, as much as possible because we want to iterate, share feedback, and certainly for folks that like to be more on the frontier, like design partners, we meet with a lot more frequently, and others we might not meet with at all. So it really just depends on how folks like, you know, their cadence and whatnot. But from our perspective, we love meeting with our customers and hearing what's working and what's not. So that's like the first major touch point we have with our customers is like synchronous video, you know, recurring meetings. And then we've got support channels. We spin up a Slack connect with all of our customers, and our team is in the Slack connect, and we get feedback and we talk to our customers in real time there. We also have a support, over email, and we also have a Slack community that's open to everyone. So there's a lot of really great discussion happening there beyond just like folks, looking for support, but just collaborating on whether it's threats that they're seeing, new detections, just general trends in the in the email threat landscape, what they're seeing in their environments, folks sharing detections with one another as well, and just collaborating. So there's an awesome community there too.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I wish more companies would actually do that, because I do think there's a collective genius amongst all of the security practitioners that's out there. And,
Yeah.
like, obviously there's stuff that companies can't share with other people or whatever, but like, hey, I'm trying to create a rule that will stop this from happening. Someone
Yeah.
has probably already done that. So, instead of all of us recreating the wheel every single time, I think the working together thing is awesome.
Yeah.
Another thing that I will get, or if I'm talking with folks, is I will get comments like, I'm already doing email security. I already have this email gateway. You can list them off. We'll leave them out of there because we love all of them as well. But what's the like better together, or what are things that, if folks think, hey, we've got an email gateway, we're doing secure email, like what are some things that they might be missing, and what would layering Sublime alongside of one of those platforms benefit them?
Yeah, I think the main benefit, I think, would come down to whether you're experiencing any like frustration or problems with your current solution. So if everything's working great, you don't have any issues, then maybe there's less of a reason. Even so, if you were to add Sublime on top of a solution, an existing stack, there's a bunch of things that Sublime enables you to do, like doing threat hunting, layering the kind of core detection capabilities as well as the community sourced detection capabilities on top of what you've got as a layered defense. We can do attack surface reduction in Sublime. So, as an example, one of my favorite examples is like blocking newly registered sender domains, like registered less than 10 days ago. Um, you can specify these types of behaviors in Sublime, like a OneNote file from a first-time sender, or an HTML file from a first-time sender. These eliminate entire classes of attacks that end up being these are very resilient to like evasion techniques. And so there's many different things that you can still do to layer on top of, to just gain, better defense in depth. And then, of course, if you've got frustrations around, detection efficacy, false positives, false negatives, frustrations around lack of transparency or the inflexibility of your current tool, that's where we really will shine too. User report automation. If you're spending a lot of time on user reports, we can do that and automate that super well as well.
What does so we talked post sales a little bit, and I loved everything that you said there. Let's talk a little bit about the pre-sales process. What does it take to get, say, a POC spun up? How long does that run? What are kind of the nuts and bolts about working with Sublime look like?
Yeah, so we do kind of we've got two routes basically for doing POCs. So we've got an enterprise POC process, and we've got a self-serve POC process actually also. So anyone can actually go to our website and run Sublime for free. So you can literally spin it up and connect your test or prod message source, and you can just go on your way. So like super easy to try. You can even do it via Docker locally. You can deploy it to your own network. So we really want to create a community around Sublime, folks like collaborating and sharing detections, and that's why we give so much stuff away for free. But then obviously, like, we've got the standard enterprise onboarding and POC process as well. So you hit up sales, or even within within the product, you can request sales to reach out to you, and then we'll do generally like a 14 to 30 day POC. We will ingest historical mail, so we'll go back like 30 plus days, ingest those historical baseline like behavior in the organization up to a year, and then we'll analyze the last 30 days of data as well and say, hey, these are the things that are sitting in user mailboxes right now. And then that initial ingestion period is used to like baseline and do some upfront tuning. And then from there, we do like a 14-day eval period, 14 to 30 day, where we're just running live in complete read-only mode. So, you don't have to worry about Sublime taking any destructive actions in the org. And then you can remediate during the POC. Like, we don't block that or anything, but just to make folks, feel comfortable, we don't do that by default. Yeah, and then usually by the end of that, we are blocking, we're showing like, hey, here's all the attacks that Sublime would have blocked. Here's all the things we would have automated on the user report side. Maybe we've identified some custom use cases that are interesting to folks, like, hey, we are interested in like DLP or insider threats or secret sharing or outbound messages to, there's like sometimes custom stuff that comes up, and we'll help folks create those custom use cases in Sublime as well to show the value there. And yeah, that's generally, high level how it goes.
Yeah, I love it. Anthony, I learned something today. I learned that there are some doggone good tech and security companies that are coming out right now. I think we have them all right here on this podcast, but love this conversation. I'm going to close today's episode with a quote from a band whose name you may understand, and that is, "Ain't nothing wrong, ain't nothing right, but still I sit and lie awake at night." And so if your email system or worrying about somebody clicking on the wrong link and costing you a lot of money is keeping you awake at night, talk with our friends over at Sublime Security, run a POC, see what sort of things you got going on. And with that, Josh, we really appreciate you being a part of this. For everyone listening, thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And we will see everyone for the next episode. Thanks, everybody.